They cut my salary the same damn week. The company broke $3.2 billion in revenue. No call, no meeting, just a robotic email from HR, sandwiched between a webinar invite and a champagne toast reminder. I was sitting at my desk halfway through a lukewarm coffee when the subject line popped up, compensation adjustment notification. No explanation, just a neat little chart showing my pay getting shaved by 15% to align with revised departmental priorities. I blinked at the screen, closed the email, reopened it, like maybe it would change. It didn't. By lunch, the 12th floor at Argonne Tech looked like a damn Vegas nightclub. Champagne glasses everywhere, confetti sticking to heels. A massive banner stretched across the lobby. Argonne Tech, market leader. Record year. Grant, our CEO, was on stage, holding court like a king who just conquered Rome. I stood near the back, half listening, half fuming, a glass of Prosecco sweating in my hand. "You all made this possible," Grant boomed, grinning like a man who thought charisma could pay rent. 12 years ago, we started with nothing. Now look at us. Market dominance, strategic wins, a product pipeline unmatched in the industry. I felt a slow burn rise up my chest. I was the one who built that damn pipeline. When I got here, there was no architecture, just a spaghetti mess of disconnected systems and 4 failed compliance audits in a row. I had spent 18 months fixing that chaos. But now, apparently, I was worth 15% less. Grant climbed off the stage. The crowd broke into groups, laughing, toasting, hugging. I stayed in the back, then I saw him cutting through the room, handshakes left and right, until he made his way to me. "Mason," he said, clapping a hand on my shoulder like we were old friends. "Hell of a ride, huh?" I stared at him, deadpan. "And the pay cut?" He didn't blink. "Just business," he said. "Everyone's adjusting." "Are they?" I asked. He raised his glass. "To the next chapter." I didn't drink. I just watched as he turned away, all charm and no conscience. That's when I heard Kyle, Grant's golden boy's son, behind me, talking way too loud to impress someone. "Yeah, got the bump today," Kyle said. 7% raise. Not bad, right? Dad said. "I earned it." My jaw tightened. Earned it? That smug little intern turned product lead had been on my team a year ago. I caught him copying code from Stack Overflow without checking dependencies. Now he was getting raises while I was getting quietly demoted. That's when it clicked. They weren't just celebrating the company. They were celebrating my quiet removal, without even telling me. They were toasting my exit, pretending I was still part of the picture, like I wasn't already erased. The hallway smelled like stale champagne and office-grade carpet glue. Confetti crunched under my shoes as I made my way back to my office, or what still passed for one. I stepped around a tipped-over banner stand that read, "Together we scale," and something in me wanted to rip the damn thing in half. But I kept walking. My inbox was still lit up like a Christmas tree. Topic, compensation, adjustment notification. Sender, HR automated delivery. Same email, same burn. I hovered over it for a second, then clicked it open again, as if rereading it might soften the blow, or maybe reveal a second version where someone apologized or at least explained it. But no, just more corporate sugarcoating about cost efficiency realignment and temporary realignment to maintain operational agility. A 15% haircut dressed up like a strategy. Out my glass wall, I spotted a group down near the product pod, Laughter.Toasting.Emma, the new intern I'd brought in myself, standing with 2 senior VPs, laughing like she belonged. I remember when she started, nervous, awkward, drowning in imposter syndrome. I'd pulled her into a couple projects early just to get her feet wet. She had potential, real spark, good instincts, even if she didn't fully know it yet. I walked her through the architecture, taught her how the old node routing worked. She'd sit in my office for hours asking questions. Good ones. Now she was sipping Prosecco with the same execs who used to forward me midnight panics asking what comes next. Back then, 3 years ago, this place was hemorrhaging clients, buried in compliance violations, and running a back-end system that looked like it was built by interns on Red Bull. I'd been brought in on a 6-month rescue contract. No desk, no team, just a whiteboard and a deadline. And I stayed. I stayed because I believed I could fix it. And I did. The rerouting logic, that was me. The dynamic pipeline rebuild that cut latency by 60%. Me. The framework we use to onboard half our Fortune 500 clients. Mine. Not in theory, not in brainstorming. In code, in structure, in blood. I pulled up the internal SharePoint and found the quarterly deck, the one Grant had shown at the celebration. He'd titled it Argon Tech Ascends, Q4 Dominance. Of course he had. I clicked the download and opened it. Page 5, Backend Evolution. Page 6, Multi-Client Scaling. Page 7, Projected Growth. I scrolled faster. Nowhere, not a slide, not a footnote, not even a single comment bubble, did my name appear. The diagrams I drew, the frameworks I documented, even the core throughput model I personally architected, all credited to Product Strategy Team. Product Strategy Team, not even led by, not even in collaboration with, just floating there, like it built itself. I closed the file slowly, not from shock, from confirmation. They weren't pushing me out, they were erasing me cleanly. No noise, no headlines, no confrontations, just a quiet whiteout of everything I'd built, like someone repainting a wall and pretending the cracks were never there to begin with. I turned back toward my office, but the glass made it hard to ignore the scene outside. Emma now in the middle of the circle, talking animatedly. Kyle had joined them. He handed her a fresh flute of champagne. They both laughed at something I couldn't hear. I watched for a long time, not angry, not jealous, just done. Let them toast to a system they didn't understand. Let them take credit for a pipeline they couldn't fix if it broke. Let them smile at Emma like she was the answer, young, shiny, and cheap. They thought I was fading out quietly. They hadn't realized yet. I wasn't disappearing. I was pulling away, on purpose. The meeting invite hit my inbox at 6:43 a.m. No subject line, just one line of text in the body. Strategic Role Transition Discussion. 8:45 a.m. HR Conf Room C2. No context, no agenda. Just a calendar block dressed like a coffin. I stood in front of the mirror that morning, staring at my reflection for too long. I put on the same navy blazer I wore 2 weeks earlier, the day I presented our Q2 margins and showed 36% growth from a quarter we thought would flatline. The slide had my name in the footer back then. I remembered how Grant shook my hand in front of the whole board. Mason delivered the impossible, he said. Now I was heading into a meeting with no subject line and 2 HR reps I barely recognized. I got to the office early, sat in my car for a minute too long in the underground garage. I wasn't nervous, not exactly, just rehearsing. I'd given meetings like this before, years ago. I knew the rhythm, the "we value your contributions" dance, the "you're an asset just not here" shuffle. I knew every step. I walked into HR at 8:44 on the dot. The 2 women waiting for me smiled like hospice nurses. Same practiced warmth, same soft eyes. "Mason," one said, "thanks for being on time." I nodded, took the seat across from them. The room was too white, too quiet. They both had folders open, but no laptops. Just paper. "We wanted to talk to you about a potential opportunity," the other one began, as if I had won something. "You've got strengths in mentorship," the first one added. "Really strong coaching evaluations. Emma even mentioned you in her onboarding debrief." I didn't say anything. "We think a shift to a support role fits." "Not a demotion," the other said quickly, as if the word might bite her. "Just repositioning. It's a move towards stability, less strategic risk." I let the silence sit. Not long, just enough to watch them glance at each other. "Who suggested this?" I asked. "It came from a leadership consensus," one said carefully. "Leadership consensus. The same leadership that once called me a cornerstone. The same group that forwarded me their 2 a.m. panic notes when systems collapsed. The same people who now couldn't even look me in the eye." I nodded once. No protest, no anger. I'd heard that phrase come out of my own mouth before. Back when I was the one moving pawns, they offered to show me a rough roadmap of what the support role would entail. I declined. On the way out, I took the long hallway that passed the boardroom. I hadn't been in there in weeks. The glass was slightly frosted, but I could still make out the silhouette at the head of the table. Emma, sitting in the chair I used to call mine. Not literally, I never owned anything here, but symbolically, the one at the front, the one facing the projection wall, the one where you pointed to the future and said, "This is what comes next." She was nodding along to something. Someone laughed. She smiled. She looked like she belonged. I stood there for maybe 5 seconds, maybe less, long enough to watch the torch being passed without ceremony. No farewell, no thanks. Just a younger model with fresh teeth and a cheaper salary. I walked back to my desk, grabbed my notebook, left the rest. They didn't need me anymore. They had someone young, shiny, and cheap, and she had my seat. That afternoon, I went home. Not fired, not laid off. Just repositioned. No calls, no pings, no, "Hey, are you okay?" from anyone I used to mentor or eat lunch with or guide through systems they didn't understand until I broke it down for them in plain English. Just silence. I sat at my kitchen table, the same spot I used to pull 14-hour remote shifts when we were in crisis mode. Same coffee ring from that one bad March. Same view out the window of the empty alley. I opened my laptop. The old one, not the company-issued brick they could wipe on a whim. This was mine. Private, personal, offline, if I needed it to be. I typed in a folder path I hadn't touched in almost 2 years. Streamline, contractuals, legal, licensing agreement, and final.pdf. The scroll bar dragged as I skimmed through the boilerplate. Then I hit Clause 9.2. License expires 24 months from effective date unless renewed within 30 calendar days of expiration. I blinked, did the math. Checked the metadata on the original file. Signed, August 17th, 2023. Today was July the 27th, 2025. 21 days left. No renewal filed. No extension. No legal rollover. Nothing. I opened my email, searched my inbox for anything related to Streamline renewal. One message popped up. 7 weeks ago. From Grant. Need your signature eventually. Just a formality. No rush. No follow-up. No reminder. Just that single brush off, like I was the guy who dropped off packages instead of the guy who built the engine inside the car. I dug deeper. Work email, personal email, even Slack DMs from Grant and Legal. Nothing. I checked the admin console. Access, still active, my credentials, my full stack privileges. They hadn't shut anything down because they didn't think they had to. Because in their heads, I was still the guy who would show up no matter how many times they ignored me. That's when it hit me. They thought I'd always be there, always available, always loyal. They forgot something. They didn't own Streamline. They licensed it from me. The entire routing system that powered over 80% of Argon Tech's backend, from data migration to real-time processing to client-side optimization, was mine, developed on my time, under my contract, signed, sealed, protected. They had 21 days. After that, the system didn't just stop, it reverted, and I still had full control. I wasn't locked out. I had the keys. And the door, it was wide open. I didn't burn it all down. No drama, no fireworks, no anonymous email leaks or mass deletion scripts. I'm not some vengeful hacker in a hoodie. I'm a builder. And builders take things apart the same way they put them together, precisely. I waited 3 more days after finding Clause 9.2, then I logged into the nightly sync routines, the ones no one ever looks at because they've been stable for years, buried in job chains, triggered by cron at 2:03 a.m. server time, invisible unless you knew where to look, and I did. I didn't touch production. Not yet. Instead, I planted a few subtle lines of code into the East Coast cluster's pre-processing logic. Nothing fancy. Just enough to delay a few critical queues by 3 seconds, then 5, then 8. It didn't throw errors, that was the point. Just enough slowdown to annoy, like a pebble in your shoe, something you can't explain, but it ruins your stride. Next, I made a change to the analytics engine that parsed real-time client telemetry, shifted 2 variables. Didn't break anything, just skewed a couple graphs, just enough to cause confusion at the user level, just enough to start a Slack thread. By the end of that week, Argon's revenue dashboards were sluggish, graphs loading half-populated, one or two API calls timing out every 30 minutes. Ops blamed a memory leak, QA rear-end tests, and found nothing. And I just sat at home, sipping coffee, watching it all from my personal diagnostic panel, the one they didn't even know existed. I'd built it during my first year, back when I needed a faster way to test modules without waiting for management approval. Tuesday morning, a ping came in. Noah from Systems. Weird latency on East Coast cluster. Feels intentional? I didn't respond. He followed up 5 minutes later. Do you know if Mason's still around? This feels like something he'd catch. The irony made me smile. I wasn't their coworker anymore, but they were still looking for my fingerprints. What they didn't know was, every bug they were chasing, that was my fingerprint. Every delay, every partial result, every misaligned report, all hand-carved, clean, surgical. I didn't touch anything essential. I didn't crash the system. I just unbalanced it. And each day the imbalance grew. You build a machine with 1,000 interlocking parts, and no one notices the spring you took out until the gears start grinding wrong. That's what this was, not sabotage. Withdrawal. By Friday, alerts were flying. Nothing critical, but nothing explainable either. Emma escalated a ticket in Jira titled, Analytics Pipeline Misalignment in Northeast Cluster. I almost laughed when I saw the commit history she pulled. She didn't know she was looking at her own onboarding tutorial code, the same one I had written for her in her first month. The system was eating itself, and they were too proud to admit they didn't know how to fix it. I figured they'd flail for weeks before it hit a real crisis. I was wrong. The collapse came faster than I thought. That night, at 11:38 p.m., I got a notification. Encrypted message received. I recognized the sender address immediately, though I hadn't seen it in 4 years. Nara Eddings, CEO of Titanosis Energy. The subject line read, We saw what you built. Can we talk? I stared at the screen, heart racing. Argon Tech was crumbling under the weight of their own arrogance. And another door had just opened. We met on a rooftop in River South, just before sunset. The air was heavy with August heat, but Naira always did prefer altitude, said it gave her perspective. Helps you see who's drowning and who's building boats. She was already there when I stepped out of the elevator, leaning on the railing, wind catching the loose edges of her linen jacket, sipping from a glass of chilled wine, like this was just another Tuesday. That's the thing about Naira Eddings. She never moved fast, never raised her voice, never rushed a pitch. She just made the room move around her. Nice of you to come, she said, offering me a glass as if we'd had lunch just last week and not 4 years ago in a San Diego conference room. I took the glass, sat down across from her. You said you saw what I built. I did, she replied. Everyone did. We've been watching Argon Tech melt in real time, and someone's been pulling strings with surgical precision. I didn't respond. She didn't need me to. I recognized the fingerprints, she said. That signature compression routine, that was in the prototype you showed us in 2021. You refined it. I gave her a slight nod. She slid a tablet across the table. Schematics, infrastructure diagrams, notes layered in red, all stamped Titanosis internal. What you built for Argon, streamline, we need that, or something better. What we have now is duct tape and crossed fingers, and I'm done gambling on CTOs who talk about innovation, but outsource every real decision. I studied the schematics. It was worse than I imagined. Fragmented servers, siloed data lakes, batch processes still running on triggers that hadn't been updated in 2 years. It'll take more than a patch job, I said. I don't want a patch, she replied. I want a rebuild, from the bones up. We want to buy what you built. I sat back. Argon Tech still thinks they own it. Do they? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Naira wasn't done. You name the terms, licensing, partnership, one-time sale, recurring deal, whatever makes sense. Then she paused. Let the silence stretch just long enough for it to sting, or, she said, you run it. I looked up. Not as an employee, not as a consultant. Under your own name, own team, full stack. You lead it. You grow it. You brand it. We back it. I blinked. It hit me harder than any razor bonus ever had. She wasn't offering me a job. She was offering me a rebirth. My hands wrapped around the wine glass, still cold from the ice bucket. I stared at the skyline. Argon Tech's tower loomed just west of us, logo glowing like it meant something. "You're not just asking for streamline," I said. "No," she replied. "I'm asking if you're finally done building for other men." I didn't speak for a long time. She stood up, buttoned her jacket. "You've got 3 days," she said, already heading for the elevator. I turned. "You said I name the terms." She stopped, glanced over her shoulder. "I said that about the system," she said. "Not the time. You've got 2. Then she was gone. I stood there on the roof as the last bit of daylight slipped behind the skyline. 2 days, and everything was about to change. The next morning, I was in the Argon Tech parking garage by 6:55. I sat in my car for 13 minutes, watching the sun creep over the edge of the structure like it was nervous to come up. I wasn't anxious, I wasn't rushing. I was finishing my coffee and waiting for 7:08, the exact minute the backdoor badge sync reset for internal contractors. I'd written that job rule myself 2 years ago, when we migrated off the old security platform. At 7:08 on the dot, I slid my badge across the lobby scanner. Green still worked. Nobody stopped me. The front desk girl didn't even look up from her phone. I walked past my old office without glancing inside, took the side stairwell, descended 2 flights to sub-level B2, a floor that didn't show up on the public fire map. The air changed the moment I stepped out. Colder, thicker, like the concrete held its breath. At the end of the hallway was a keypad and a retinal scanner. 6 people had access to the vault inside. Only one knew everything about what it held. Me. I stepped in. It wasn't flashy, just rows of servers behind glass, a control station in the center, and the black box, a high-security RAID array, and physical backup shell I'd built from scratch. The kill switch, the restore point, the core. This was where I'd stashed the only full blueprint of Streamline. Architecture, version history, rollback logs, the entire source. I keyed in my code. The drive spun up. Screen blinked to life. I uploaded the blueprint. Signed the closure doc. A formal shutdown of Argon Tech's usage rights pending expiration under Clause 9.2, final copy, time-stamped. Then I created a README. It wasn't long, just a text file with 1 paragraph. This wasn't sabotage, you broke the contract, and worse, the trust. If you want it back, start with line 338 in root cluster 3, everything else will follow, or won't. I encrypted the folder, set the lockout, wiped the keypad history clean. As I stepped out, I saw Marcy from facilities walking toward the supply room. She paused when she saw me, eyebrows lifting. "You still here?" she asked. Not for long," I said. She gave a faint smile. "You made this place work. Everyone knows it." That landed harder than I expected. I nodded, then moved on. In the elevator, I punched in the lobby. Doors started to close, then a hand caught the edge. Emma stepped in. She looked surprised to see me, tired maybe, or just unsure how to act. I didn't speak first. "Are the rumors true?" she asked after a second. "Did we lose you?" I looked her in the eye. No edge, no anger. You never had me. The elevator dinged. I stepped out. At 8:07 a.m., the first outage hit. By 9:15, Argon Tech's entire East Coast data stream was down, and they had no idea how to fix it. I sat alone in a corner booth at Frankie's Diner, halfway through a lukewarm coffee I didn't even remember ordering. The blinds were tilted just enough to let the sun in across the chrome trim of the table, and I had my laptop open, the screen dimmed low. My private dashboard blinked softly, red node by red node. It started slow. Cluster E4, drop signal, then the metrics engine began throwing loop errors. By 8:42 a.m., the West Virginia instance lost failover. I didn't even touch my keyboard, just watched. At 8:54, I logged into the monitoring panel I hadn't used in months, the one Argon's legal team didn't know existed. I'd built it as a side utility to test rollback scenarios, but it had turned into something more, a heartbeat monitor, really. Today it looked like a flat line dipped in chaos. Slack started to implode around 9, an old shared channel, infranoise, lit up on the right side of the screen. Noah posted first, Anyone seeing 503s hitting client portals can isolate. 3 seconds later, dashboard loads are freezing. It's not regional anymore. Then Kyle, of all people, chimed in. Can we revert Streamline to a previous commit? Someone checked the latest config. That made me laugh. He never learned that Streamline wasn't a GitHub repo. You could just roll back like a bad design mock. At 9:17, the East Coast cluster went fully dark. 9 states, 14 enterprise clients, 1 critical government contract. Gone. I refreshed the page. More red, more silence. My phone buzzed. Noah again, this time direct. Grant's asking questions. Is it too late to reverse this? I didn't reply. Let them feel the weight of what they discarded. Inside Argon Tech, I imagined the boardroom in chaos. Grant yelling, without raising his voice. Because that's how he did damage control. Kyle pacing like a caged intern instead of a promoted exec. Delaney probably slamming her tablet on the table like that, somehow fixed bad code. I pictured Emma staring at a screen full of errors she didn't know how to debug, looking over her shoulder, waiting for someone to say Mason's on it. But I wasn't, and I wouldn't be. They had wiped my name, my credits, my ownership. So now they got the system without the architect, and the system was withdrawing. This wasn't a crash, it was a cold pull of support, a quiet exodus, a surgical unweaving. Then it happened. At 10:11 a.m., my eyes caught something in the corner of the browser. Tech Summit 25 was trending. I clicked. The top post was from Salvix's official account. Big announcement at 11 a.m., a new era begins, powered by an engine you've never seen before. Vero. I stared at it for a second, then sat back in my seat, while Argon Tech scrambled to plug holes in a boat I no longer kept afloat. Another storm was already forming offshore, and I was the one steering it. At exactly 11:05 a.m., the lights dimmed in the main auditorium of the Global Tech Summit. Thousands of eyes turned toward the screen as a pulse of white light rolled across it, slow and deliberate. No product names, no sponsors, just a black background, then a single phrase in bold gray text. Powered by Vero. The room buzzed, people whispered, some reached for their phones. A few rows ahead of me, someone murmured, "What the hell is Vero?" Then Naira Eating stepped onto the stage in a charcoal blazer and silver heels, calm as a surgeon. She stood center stage, took the mic, and waited for silence. "Innovation doesn't scream," she said. "It builds in silence." Another beat passed. Then the lights shifted, and I stepped out beside her. No fanfare, no intro music, just me in a navy suit and a black tie, walking into a spotlight I hadn't asked for but was damn well ready to claim. I looked out at the crowd, some faces I recognized from past conferences, competitors, ex-clients, even a few former Argon execs who hadn't jumped ship yet. I spotted Isa from Argon Tech in the back, frozen mid-laugh, her mouth slightly open. I stepped up to the mic. "Vero," I said, "isn't a new product, it's a foundation. A rebuild from the ground up. It's the engine Salvix will scale on, and I didn't license it, I didn't sell it." I looked right into the cameras lining the front row. I built it, and it's mine. Cameras flashed, there were audible gasps. One guy actually said, "Oh my God," out loud. I kept going. 3 years ago, I designed a system called Streamline. It powered Argon Tech's backend. It kept their clients online, their data live, their profits steady. And for 3 years, they thought I'd keep showing up. No credit, no voice, no name. I paused. The audience held their breath. Well, they were wrong. Behind me, the screen lit up again, this time with system architecture blueprints, performance metrics, real-time dashboard clips. Vero was leaner, cleaner, faster, built on everything Streamline had been, and everything it never got to be under someone else's name. Naira returned to the mic. "Today we're announcing a full-scale migration to the Vero infrastructure," she said. "Salvix is already running 62% of our operations on it. By Q2, it'll be 100, and we're just the beginning." The applause hit like a wave. People stood. Phones came up. Reporters typed furiously. Someone in the back shouted, "Wait, that's Mason?" On the live stream, the comment threads exploded. Mason built Streamline? Did Argon really erase him? Vero just buried Argon Tech. I didn't smile. I just stepped back into the light and let them see me. Not a ghost in their systems anymore. Not the guy behind the curtain. I was the architect, and this time, my name was built into the frame. Isa was still frozen in her seat, eyes locked on the screen. She looked like someone just told her gravity had been a lie. Good. Let them all sit with it. Because Vero wasn't coming. It was already here, and the system that replaced Argon Tech's dominance, yeah, it had my name on it.